So if you've played Elden Ring for pretty much any amount of time, you've probably seen this giant corpse sitting on a throne-like chair on one of the game's load screens. Or perhaps you came across them yourself underground, such as in the arena of the Dragonkin Soldier of Noxtella, or within Night's Sacred Ground. 2 additional empty thrones are also found in Sellia and Noxtella respectively. But just what are these giant chairs, and who sat in them? I welcome you, Tarnished, to join this humble scholar as I present you with the knowledge we have about these chairs, and I of course look forward to hearing your thoughts on these matters in the comments as well. So as I brought up in the beginning, many of the chairs in question are found underground and are contained within what the game refers to as chair crypts. These crypts have clear ties to the Nox, since they are found within Sellia, Noxtella, and Nokron, and so our search for answers logically begins with them, the Nox. The Nox, in my opinion, are one of the most fascinating groups in all of Elden Ring's lore. Meaning night in Latin, the Nox are a group of beings responsible for creating the eternal cities, Noxtella, Nokron, and the nameless eternal city. These architecturally beautiful metropolises are filled with ornate details that just seethe with culture and technological sophistication. And although these cities are now located underground, that wasn't always the case. You see, the Nox were not worshippers of the Greater Will and of Marika, but rather of a rival outer god known as the Lord of Night. Incredible inventors, the Nox sought to create technologies that would allow them to overcome the Greater Will and presumably supplant it with their own god. They, for example, created mirrored helmets that could ward off intervention of the Greater Will and its vassal fingers. The Mimic Tier's ashes are yet another example, perhaps better known for its ability to help you cheese certain bosses, but is in fact the result of an attempt by the Eternal City to forge a lord of their own, irrespective of the fingers or the Greater Will. And apparently their most egregious sin of all was the creation of the Finger Slayer Blade, a weapon said to be able to harm the Greater Will and its vassals. Its description reads, "The hidden treasure of the Eternal City of Nokron, a blade said to have been born of a corpse. This blood-drenched fetish is proof of the high treason committed by the Eternal City and symbolizes its downfall. Said to be able to harm the Greater Will and its vassals." And it was for these crimes that the Nox and the Eternal Cities were banished to a subterranean existence, or as we learn from the Nox monk Hood. Long ago, the Nox invoked the ire of the Greater Will and were banished deep underground. Now they live under a false night sky, in eternal anticipation of their liege, of the coming age of the stars, and of their Lord of Night. But it seems that not all of the Nox were forced underground, as we can still find remnants of their technology and architecture on the surface. We can, for example, tie the Nox to Sellia, a town protected by magical seals and that is full of Noxian design motifs. It's also here that we can find one of the chair crypts, guarded by a Nox swordstress and a monk, unequivocally tying the Nox to this town. We can additionally also connect the Nox to Ordina, which shares an almost identical architectural layout with Sellia and is similarly protected by magical barriers. And so with some of the history of the Nox established, and with these shared design elements in mind, we now return to the chair crypts. Specifically, I'd like to focus on the design on the backrest of the chairs. Do you recognize this? This same design can of course be found adorning the backs of all of the giant chairs. But did you know it can also be found on the floor of several chambers in Ordina? And once you enter into the town's Everjail, These sit beneath statues of Mikola that open the way to the Halictree. Even more interesting still is that we can also find the chair itself, represented within the sigil for Sellian and Knight sorceries. And it is further embedded within the key item, the Sellian Sealbreaker. And I think this fact solidifies the chair crypt's cultural importance to both of these groups, to the Nox and the Sellians. And so who were these crypts built to enshrine? Well, I'd like to start by making a couple inferences based off of the evidence that we have. For one thing, the elaborate throne-like design of the chairs, combined with the fact that there are only 4 of them that we know of, tell us that these were definitely sat in by revered entities. And this is possibly further hinted at by the rarity of the legendary items and relics found within the crypts, that were likely left behind by their followers as offerings. The legendary talisman Moon of Noxtella and the Fingerslayer blade being 2 notable examples. We are also perhaps provided with further information from Gowry, who says that the Sellians are descended from the Eternal.
You've been a saint through and through. As thanks, I vow to impart to you my knowledge of the lost sorceries of the Sellians, descendants of the Eternal.
While this could arguably be a reference to Marika the Eternal, I can't think of another instance in the game where she's referred to as just the Eternal. And so the way that he phrases this makes it sound like he's perhaps referring to an alternate race or a group. Although I'm curious to hear what you think of this line in the comments. If we look closer at the remains of the beings still present and seated in the chairs, we see that they are also wearing garbs similar to the Nox. Although the color of their robes is certainly distinct. More on that a little later. So, is it possible that the beings seated in these giant thrones are the Eternal that Gowry mentions? The progenitors of the Nox and Sellians, and the source of their magical knowledge? Or, returning to the description of the Fingerslayer blade, a blade born of a corpse. Is it possible that these giants were used in some sort of sacrificial rite in order to forge this forbidden weapon that can harm the greater will and whose creation warranted their banishment underground? And the last thing I'll leave you with is this. Remember earlier when I mentioned that the color of the robes worn by the beings in the chairs is distinct? Well, this has led some in the community to speculate that the beings in the chairs could be tied to this figure from the recently released Shadow of the Erdtree DLC trailer. It's a little bit too tinfoil hat for my tastes, but interesting nonetheless. And it's a bit of a stretch, but since Ordina does in fact lead to the Halictree, there is a connection here to Mikola as well. In any case, I would certainly love it if Shadow of the Erdtree does end up elaborating on the Nox and the chair crypts in some way, because I just find all of it completely fascinating. And I hope it was interesting for you as well. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.